So I'll talk about fear from the perspective of generational or intergenerational. I'll also talk about fear from the perspective of the personal fear. And then I will talk about fear or dealing with fear at DNA level as well. So let's start talking about intergenerational. Now, sometimes you may experience some kind of fear that you think it's unexplained. At least that is how it comes up for a lot of people. They may have this big obsession with fear. They look around them, or they look at kind of their past from childhood up until now, and they can't pinpoint why they feel so overwhelmed with fear, but they still know that there's this deep fear. And no matter what they do, they just crippled in terms of moving forward. And this may show up in kind of some relationships. It will show up as life endeavors like careers or business ventures or any other venture that they feel so passionate and pulled or called to do. They always find that this fear, which is unexplained, is standing in the way. What I find is some of this fear, an aspect of this fear, especially when it's not explained, it could be ingrained at generational level, which means it's not just your fear. It could be fear that you carry in, either from the past in terms of any past life or past experiences, not necessarily in this lifetime. For some people, it could also be fear that was generated at fetal level. So when they were in the womb of their mother, maybe some things happened that kind of draw the fear onto them, or fear got itself attached onto them as an entity. And then obviously there is the fear associated with some forms of trauma or other life experiences or learned experiences. I did this before, it didn't work out, so I'm not going to touch it, but actually whenever an opportunity comes up, this kind of fear, learned experience fear comes to, but I think with the learned experience fear, we know what it is. And because we do, then it's easier for us to pinpoint and overcome it. It's the unexplained fear that can be quite overwhelming and holds us back. And so keep an eye on that kind of fear. And if it comes up as intergenerational fear, or fear that you're holding as a result of your ancestral lineage, it could be from your father's side, your mother's side, or just generational side, in general. Once you identify what it is, for instance, if you had an Akashic Records consultation or you did some research in terms of where is this unexplained fear coming from, you will be able to resolve that much quicker once you've been able to understand where it's coming from. Either way, even if you don't understand where it's coming from, so long as you identify it as fear and it's holding you back, it's time for you to release it and let it go. So just remember that as a type of fear that I see kind of holding people back, and also know that you can resolve it. The other fear is a personal fear. So I've explained some of that through things like personal learned experiences. Again, those ones, because you understand it a bit more, when you realize that is still holding you back, is again in a way easy because you pinpoint it and you are able to release it. It's important that you release this at both energetic level as well as the physical level as well, and trust that when it's gone, it's gone. And also, when I talk about shadow work, I will kind of explain why it's important that when you clear an emotion like fear, or a not so positive energy like fear, is important that you replace the void that you've created with a positive energy or a positive kind of something that you can embody to replace that, so you don't end up going back. Because again, every now and again, you might be reminded of how you used to be, or something will trigger that fear. But when you know how to deal with it, you will always replace it with a positive emotion that you're looking for, so it doesn't come back to cripple you or stand between you and where you're looking to get to. Now, the final fear that I wanted to talk to you about, again, is related to the two. So it's related to the intergenerational. It could be related to the personal as well. Is looking at fear, and also when you do clearing it from the DNA level, because sometimes we clear these things even when we understand there's intergenerational, or even when we don't and we clear it, we may still hold on to that without knowing. Subconsciously, an aspect of you may hold on to it because it has become a comfort zone, and that is normally kind of attached to you at DNA level. So it's important that when you clear fear, you also check and look at as if aspects of this is still in your system at DNA level, that you are able to clear that, but more importantly, activate a new form of you. Again, going back to what I said, when you clear something you don't want, replace it with something positive. So remember that when you're dealing with fear, even when you clear it at energetic level, clear it also at DNA level, so that the physical body is totally devoid of it and you don't carry on with it. Because that causes more and more of the triggers as well. But when you replace that DNA strand with a positive high vibrational DNA, it's going to really, really help you from that perspective. So let's talk about shadow work, because it's very, very related to fear. So the shadow is the aspect of us that we don't see, but it's very linked to us because it causes us to see aspects of us that we don't necessarily always want to see. And this shadow always lurks or walks with us to enable us to become our highest potential selves. So then when we go on a self-development journey, a personal growth journey, your shadow always crops up and you go, okay, so I have evolved me from where I was and how I used to deal with these things, for example, fear, into this new state. The shadow sometimes triggers some of those things or aspects of you that needs to be cleared, so that you are not necessarily covering aspects that need to be resolved with, oh, it's okay, oh, it's all positive, that kind of thing. So your shadow will always come in to remind you if there's something that still needs to be looked at and resolved, so you can kind of progress properly to the next level of your personal growth. A particular method that I have been using with some of my clients over the last few months somehow has been proving really, really effective, just based on the responses that they're giving me as well. And in a nutshell, it's about you identifying this. So for instance, let's carry on talking about fear. If it's fear, let's, decide to deal with fear as, an aspect of us that is holding us back. But you look at it in the eye, you personify fear, and you have a conversation with fear and get to put yourself in the shoes of this aspect of, it's not an aspect of you in this case, it's an entity that kind of has attached itself to you. But get to be in the shoes of this aspect that holds you back, or this entity that holds you back. And once you've understood it, you will then know how to feed it with what it wants in such a way that you are no longer prey for it, if that's the right way of saying it. And when you are no longer prey for it, it means you have upgraded yourself. And so from that perspective, the shadow moves away because you have kind of learned your lessons and overcome what you need to overcome. And then you progress on your personal growth journey. And again, once you've done this, shadow work, personifying the fear or the anxiety or whatever it is that you're dealing with, the jealousy, whatever it is, that lower vibrational emotion that you're dealing with. Personify it, have a conversation with it, put yourself in the shoes, understand where it's coming from, feed it with what it wants energetically, and then you will find that it will distance itself from you. From there, you replace that with what I call an ally. So the ally is something, again, a personified something that you replace fear with in this instance. But once you do that, again, put yourself in the shoes of the ally, create a really good positive relationship with this ally to support you as you move forward in confidence. So hopefully this gives you some ideas in terms of how to deal with fear, in terms of how shadow work really enables you to move forward and leave aspects of you that no longer serve you, and then become more and more of your upgraded, grown self when we look at our personal growth journeys. I'm going to end the newsletter here. I hope this adds value to you.